everyone. Welcome to our JPA readership here. We're having this interview as a chance for everyone to meet our new editor-in-chief. I'm Loretta DiPietro. I've been the editor-in-chief for 9 years. It's time for me to step down. It's time for somebody young to take over the journal and direct it toward their vision. So I'd like to take this time to introduce Pedro Hallal. And Pedro, welcome back to JPA. You're an old friend. And I'd like you to introduce yourself to our readership.
So hi Loretta, hi everyone. So I'm Pedro Hallal. I'm based in the extreme south of Brazil, almost like near the border with Uruguay. So you need to go really south to meet me here in Brazil. I've my background is in physical education as an undergraduate degree, and then I had a master's and a PhD in epidemiology, and I started working in the field of physical activity and health. Um, I think, the main things I've been involved with were the Lancet Physical Activity series that we published in 2012, then 2016. And we were about to publish a new one this year, but, it has been a crazy year and the Olympics were canceled. So our series was canceled. So it will be published soon next year. I've been working in the field, particularly with inside Brazil first. We have some surveillance stuff and then some work with the birth cohorts we have here in Brazil, and then with some interventions. And I've been involved in the evaluation of these interventions here in Brazil. And then I've always been involved with JPA. I've published twice in the first year of JPA. I will always remember those small booklets. And I think Stephen Blair and who was the other editor at that time?
Oh God.
Jim Morrow Jr.
Jim, yes.
They were the editors.
Yeah.
We published a couple of papers there. And then I served as a reviewer lots of times. Then I was part of the editorial board. And then I pressed pause. I stopped my career pretty much for 4 years, and I will talk a little bit about that later. And then now I'm back. And my first task when back to research will be the very challenging task of replacing Loretta after her wonderful term as the editor-in-chief of the journal.
Well, that's very kind of you, Pedro. And so, we've been in physical activity research. We're both epidemiologists. We've been in this field a long time. What do you see as the current challenges in physical activity research?
That's very interesting, Loretta. I think there's a combination of two things. So I would talk a little bit about like the more scientific or methodological questions, and then I will talk about more like the intervention related questions. So I think in terms of science, our field started pretty much with lots of prospective studies, and in recent years, we have been involved in many cross-sectional studies. And I think it is kind of time for us to go back to some of the prospective studies and test more, I would say, scientifically sound research questions. And in order to do that, it takes time. So I think that one of the challenges will be to go back to the long-term follow-ups of cohorts, of intervention studies to analyze them. I think this is like a scientific question. And then the real life question, I think, is how can we get people to be more active at the global scale? And I think this is like a very difficult one because some years ago, we lacked infrastructure really to start dealing with that. So we were a young field. We had little evidence. We were just starting surveillance. We had very little influence on governments. But now we are at a different stage, and now we are, WHO thinks we are important. The journals think we are important. So everyone knows that physical activity is important. And so now we are in a position that we cannot fail. So we need to think about interventions that will work. And I think that would be like the second challenge for the next years.
The scaling up,
Yeah,
right, that Rodrigo talks about a lot. How do we improve population levels of physical activity? I think we can all agree it's good. It promotes health. It fixes just about every risk factor that exists, but getting people to do it at the global level. So you've got a wealth of knowledge and experience in this area. Where do you see the journal going? Like, do you have a vision? I know I've known you a long time. You always have vision. Have you thought about it yet with regard to, say, the next 5 years of the journal?
So Loretta, and I will say this, and it's not to be kind to you, it's just to be to say the truth. Realistically, I think the journal is going really well. Uh, I follow the journal a lot, and I think that the quality of research is going is getting better and better. I think that the journal per se, it started with 4 issues a year. It's 12 now. We used to receive like 100 submissions per year. It's 700 now. So I think that in every aspect of the scientific quality of what we publish, there's room for improvement, but we just need to follow the same direction. I think that my main idea for the journal is to get it more global, because I think all the previous editors were based in the US. So I'm based in Brazil, and I'm about to announce the new board of senior associate editors. If we take the 6 of us together, it is different continents, it is different ethnic groups, 3 men and 3 women. So I think that we need to go global. And the title, and this is kind of a spoiler, but the title of the editorial I'm writing for the first issue is that JPA needs to go global when it enters adulthood, because next year will be JPA's 18th anniversary. So it's time to go global. We have done everything right so far, and we need to go a step further towards getting global.
And I think that's a wonderful idea. I just also want to point out, as the science has improved globally, right, we now are accepting papers from, countries that didn't have a presence before. Brazil has always had a pretty strong presence, but some of the African countries now and Middle Eastern countries are submitting some wonderful work. So,
and you know what I think about that, Loretta? When I say that your term was fantastic, one of the reasons I say that is that these countries, they did not start getting these papers out in JPA as wild cards. They have published good papers, and the way you dealt with the journal made them know that the bar is here. So they will not have a paper accepted just because they are from a place, but they will get encouraged to go and get here where it needs to be. So this is like pretty much the main thing that I keep saying to my colleagues, that JPA is not wild carding papers. It is accepting good science from everywhere around the world. And this is exactly how it should be. Like it a lot.
So, okay, final question. What challenges do you foresee?
the same challenge that we face all the time, which is funding for physical activity research. Because in the end, good papers come from good projects that are well funded. And with the COVID pandemic, our, lots of funding schemes moved towards COVID. And I'm afraid that one of the challenges we will face is that we cannot accept to continue to be, and I like that sentence, the most important and least funded public health priority of the world. So I think that continues to be, one of our main challenges. We need to get enough funding to do the research that we need for the physical activity field. Just for one example, let me just give one example. There are very nice papers suggesting that physical activity can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease. So this is something that we need to look carefully in long-term studies that we follow people for years. So, but these studies are expensive. They take time. The measurements to deal with Alzheimer's and mental health and cognition, some of them are complicated. So we need good equipment. We need money to fund the study for years. So I think that funding continues to be one of our main challenges.
Right, because funding priorities affect, as you just said, the quality of the science and the quality of the science directed toward JPOP. So we want good publications, we need good science, and we need funding. You're absolutely right. Well, welcome, Pedro. You're going to have fun. You're going to be great. Everyone, thank you. Who's ever going to be listening to this. This is your new editor-in-chief of JPA. Thank you so much, Pedro.
Thank you, Loretta. It was my pleasure.